Let's go to game number 2 in the Power 5. This game will be Saturday, noon Eastern time on ABC. The Oklahoma State Cowboys and the Texas Longhorns. About 14 or so, 15 or so, depending on where you look. That's the line as of right now. And just a reminder here, no team has made the playoff when ranked outside the top 6 in the penultimate rankings. Texas is in at number 7. So if they're going to make it, it'd be the first time ever. They're going to need a little help, I think, but it is certainly possible, but they have to win, obviously, against the Oklahoma State Cowboys. 6 of the last 8 Big 12 championship games have been decided by a touchdown or less. That's the most for any Power 5 conference championship game over the last 15 seasons. Of course, there was a 6-year gap there for the Big 12 where they did not have a conference championship game when they went down to 10 members there after the 20 whatever season it was. You know. Now, the matchup between Oklahoma State and Texas has been really interesting. 7 of the last 8 games in this matchup have been decided by one score. Each of the last 3 have featured double-digit comeback wins, which is amazing. Oklahoma State trailed by 14 in 21 and 22. Both games were won by the Pokes, and Texas trailed by 11 when they beat Oklahoma State in 2020. Steve Sarkisian, people are making the big deal out of the Big 12 Coach of the Year. I don't think Sark cares. I think Mike Gundy is a deserving winner, I might add. I don't think there's been a better coaching job in his career than what he's done this year. They've had a lot of close games. They're really good in close games. That usually leads to the coach being successful. Now, Steve Sarkisian, I think, has been amazing with the way he's put this roster together. It feels like they've been building for this moment. They've embraced the expectations. This is their opportunity to knock the door down and announce to the college football world that they are officially back. I know some people think they're back already. I don't think Sark and his crew feel that way at the moment. Now, Mike Gundy, I referenced. Over the last 15 years, Oklahoma State is 46-22 in games decided by one score. That's the second best win percentage in the FBS, and they're 4-1 in games like that this year. Let's start with the Oklahoma State offense against the Texas defense. Oklahoma State did an amazing job after a pretty rough start. Okay, it was bad early. Oklahoma State had a bye week. They reassessed what they were doing. They decided to go, hey, we're going to get into the pistol in our alignment. We're going to put the running back behind the quarterback. Ollie Gordon's really good running out of that, and we're going to make Ollie Gordon a star. And he has answered the call. And that's the big question of the game is, can Oklahoma State run the football? Ollie Gordon's the leader in the FBS in rushing yards. He is amazing as it relates to rushing touchdowns. He's second behind Blake Corum, and he has 8 100-yard games on the ground this year. He's legit, okay? He is really, really good. Let's talk about what Ollie Gordon is. He reminds me of Najee Harris. If you haven't watched him this year, he's a big, tall back, but he runs lower than a guy that would indicate he's 6'1", 6'2", in that vicinity. He runs lower, and he has a great jump cut. I think he has great vision. I think he's a really good pass catcher out of the backfield. He's a lot like Najee Harris, and that's a pretty good place to start because I think Najee was an excellent college back and has now transitioned well into the NFL. He's going against an elite defensive front. Tavondre Sweat, Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year, probably the best run defender in the Big 12. You can make a case that a defensive tackle is one of the best run defenders in the entire country. Byron Murphy is probably the most disruptive interior pass rusher. I think Barron Sorrell on the edge is their unsung hero. You have Ethan Burke, who's got good speed off the edge, and Jalen Ford at linebacker, who is a tackling machine. In Texas' defense, if you're going to beat them, you got to beat them through the air. It has not been on the ground so far this year. 74% of the yards they've allowed this year have come through the air. That is 131st as far as the yards on the ground given up, yards through the air given up. So if you're going to beat them, you got to beat them on the perimeter. So that means it's going to fall on Alan Bowman. He unfortunately has 6 picks in the last 3 weeks. 2 against BYU, 1 against Houston, 3 against UCF. He's thrown an interception in 5 of the last 6 games. The one that he did not throw an interception in was against Oklahoma. Ollie Gordon, believe it or not, threw an interception in that game. But the one thing he does really, really well, he doesn't take sacks. He's taken just 6 sacks this year, and he gets the ball out pretty quickly and can extend plays just enough to make sure the ball's going to be out instead of taking those lost yardage plays. They've stayed on schedule, and he's a veteran player that understands his role within the offense. Brennan Presley's their go-to guy. He'll be in the slot, leads the Big 12 in targets with 109. And Leon Johnson, a transfer from Division III George Fox. He's been outstanding the last few weeks. He was in line to redshirt, but he's at 6'5". He's a problem on the perimeter, can win some jump balls and can create some issues with you on some of those big routes where he looks like a fade, but he hitches it up there on the underneath. Texas's offense against Oklahoma State's defense. Now, you're going to look at Oklahoma State's defensive numbers, and you're going to say, I don't know. It's pretty surprising. And I was surprised kind of looking at just their stats, because if you look at how they can create some havoc, I think they're better than the numbers might indicate. Now, they are, statistically speaking, one of the worst defenses to make it to a Big 12 conference championship game. There have been 28 participants in the Big 12 title game in the last 20 years. No Big 12 defense playing in a title game has allowed more yards per play. They give up 6.3. More rushing yards per game. They give up 172 than the 2023 Oklahoma State Cowboys. So they are 116th in yards per play. They are 105th in rushing yards allowed. The one thing they do extremely well is they force turnovers. They're an opportunistic group, and that's their bread and butter. They have forced 18 turnovers in the last 8 games. And the two most important players for them on defense are Colin Oliver and Nicholas Martin. Colin Oliver is number 30. I love this guy. He's awesome. End of the line of scrimmage, outside linebacker, but he can slide down and play DN. He's extremely disruptive on the end. He can take over the game. You got to be very careful for number 30 if you are the Texas Longhorns. And then Nicholas Martin, number 4. He's off the ball. He's not very big, but he's really fast. And that defensive line, they play 3-down defensive line, 3 safeties, very unique structure. It's called basically a 3-3 joker. 3 safeties. There's 3 in the middle, pretty much at all 3 levels, except 30 walks at the end of the line of scrimmage a lot. It's a unique structure that's a little difficult to play against. Now, Texas has seen similar defensive structures in the past. Against TCU, they ran a little bit of this. Against Iowa State, they ran a little bit of this. So they have seen it before, and they have had success with it before, so it won't completely shock them. But it is a little different. I think Oklahoma State does a pretty good job in creating some chaos. And at times, especially in the second half of football games, they've played very, very well. Now, Quinn Ewers, last year in Stillwater, he had one of the worst performances of his career. He threw 3 interceptions in the game, completed just 39% of the 49 attempts in the loss. It's one of 2 games in his career in which he's thrown multiple interceptions. Both have resulted in Texas losses. 2 picks against Oklahoma this year, then 3 last year against the Post. Jaden Blue and CJ Baxter are the 1-2 punch at running back. Jaden Blue has really come on, and CJ Baxter has kind of been steady throughout the course of the season. They're filling in for the unfortunate injury that Jonathan Brooks experienced earlier in the year against Kansas State. Those two are pretty dang good 1-2 punch, and at wide receiver, they are super elite. Xavier Worthy, a little bit banged up, but he should be good to go. Also has a huge effect in the return game. And then A.D. Mitchell, who's the deep threat. He's also the guy that they're going to target in the red zone to complement J.T. Sanders, who's the tight end and the real matchup nightmare. I mean, just a matchup nightmare for defenses every single week that he's at 100%. A little banged up there as well, but both should be good to go. Both Worthy and Sanders should be just fine. And then finally, not to be overlooked, Jordan Whittington. He's the go-to guy on 3rd down and is a very reliable target there for Quinn Ewers. So much of what Texas does is off of play action. Can the linebackers flow quickly enough to be able to disrupt the rhythm of Quinn Ewers? He gets the ball out really quick, so they're going to have to be really smart. And I think Texas is going to have to do a really good job using their RPOs, which they run a lot of, and assessing, because the structure is going to change at the snap, assessing post-snap movement. That's what Quinn Ewers got to do. He's got to be really, really smart in this game, because this Oklahoma State defense is really solid when it comes to messing with quarterbacks' eyes. Like I said, they can turn you over. They're very, very good at that. A couple trends in this game. Oklahoma State has covered 4 straight games as an underdog, and Oklahoma State is 19-5-1 against the spread against ranked teams since 2018. I will not give a pick on the game, but I look forward to being on the call. It should be awesome. They're noon Eastern time from AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas.